Divorce, especially unwanted divorce, can leave you feeling quite powerless. All of this stuff is happening to you, it's happening around you, and it might feel like there's nothing that you can do. And well, we like to have a sense of control. We don't like that feeling of not having any influence over our lives. And so there's 10 things I'm going to share with you today that we often do to try to have a sense of control during divorce. One of the first things that we do is we tend towards snooping or towards looking for information. Because if you have felt like you were blindsided with something, well, you don't want to feel that way again. And so you're collecting information so that you can feel like you're in control. You can feel like you have some power. You feel like you know what's going to be happening and what's coming up. And so you can have this obsessive drive to look for information so that nothing feels like it's hidden from you anymore. Sometimes we try to control our ex, and that can happen a couple ways. If you are speaking with them, sometimes you can try to give them advice, try to tell them what to do. If you're not talking with them, sometimes you're judging what they're doing and judging their actions. And it makes sense. After all, this was somebody that you did have influence on, and now you no longer do. And it's a strange transition. And so sometimes we try to make sense of the world through trying to control theirs. If you have a difficult ex, you may find yourself looking for labels, whether it be narcissist, sociopath, whatever it is. We look at those labels because it makes us feel like then we can understand what's happening. It takes this craziness, this unknown, and it starts to put it into these neat little packages that makes us feel like, oh, I know what that thing is. Other times we give ourselves rigid rules. It's very black and white thinking. You might say, I am never, ever going to allow myself to be hurt again. I am never going to be vulnerable again. I am never going to date again. Or you might say, I'm not going to be doing this until, and you give yourself this hard and fast rule. But that's not really how life works, is it? When we're giving ourselves those rigid boundaries, we're pretending that we can control things. Blame often comes from a place of control. After all, think about who is the most powerful person in the courtroom? The one who sits up there and delivers judgment. And so sometimes we take on that role ourselves because it makes us feel powerful when we can say, they did this is their fault. And it can feel good for a little bit. But like most of these things, it's ultimately a distraction. For those that are working out co-parenting relationships, sometimes the sense of control comes out in a need to micromanage the kids or their care. And I'm not talking about legitimate concerns that you might have with how your ex is with the kids. That absolutely is something that you need to pay attention to. But whether they are eating the right breakfast cereal, does that really, really matter? But when you pay attention to those details, it can make you feel better, because when there's nothing else you can control, if you can control the t-shirt your kid has on that day, it gives you a sense that at least you have some power in your life. One of the things that leads to the biggest sense of powerlessness is wondering why all of this happened or how they could do these things to you. And we don't like that void. We don't like that not knowing. And so we can search for that understanding. We can search for that meaning. And we tell ourselves that we need to understand for some real purpose, that we can't move on, we can't heal until we understand why. But I think really what we're looking for is that sense of control. Because we have this sense that if we understand why, we can keep something like this from ever happening again. Sometimes we obsess over the new partner. We dig into their social media, or we talk about them with our friends, dissecting every little detail there is about them. And so often we're breaking them down in order to try to build ourselves up. The fight for control might extend into court. It seems like if you hire the right attorneys or deliver the right evidence or make your plea to the judge, that you can have everything work out as you see that it should. But that's not how the courts work. And in that system, there's so much that you don't have control over. And then finally, a rather harmless way that some of us try to find control is by changing the external. Maybe you get a haircut or you change the interior design in your home. Sometimes those little external things can help us feel like, hey, this is my life. I may not be able to influence all of this other stuff, but this is still something that I can change, something that I can control. None of us like that feeling of being out of control. We're not comfortable in that space. And going through divorce is a balance. It's a balance of just accepting the limitations of your control while at the same time exercising that influence wherever you can. And the good news is that whatever it is you're going through right now, it is temporary. This will shift. You will again feel like your life is your life.